Have you ever given everything you had, your time, your sleep, your health only, to realize it still wasn't enough? Have you ever watched others who seem to be doing less somehow move further ahead while you feel completely stuck, exhausted, just wondering what on earth you're doing wrong? If that sounds familiar, I want to tell you a story about a man named Thomas. Thomas was a farmer, a man who lived and breathed by a single belief: that hard work was the only honest path to success. He was the kind of person who woke up long before the sun even thought about rising. He would work until his body was physically shaking with fatigue, until his muscles screamed in protest. His hands were calloused and often bled. His back was a constant, dull ache. He was so consumed by his work that he missed countless dinners with his wife. He was, in a very real sense, missing out on his own life. But he was absolutely convinced that all this sacrifice, all this pain would eventually pay off. But it never did. Despite his relentless effort, his crops barely survived each season. His debts piled up, growing heavier with each passing year. He was pouring his soul into the land, and the land was giving him almost nothing back. Then, one brutal summer, under the crushing weight of a severe drought and his own stubborn pride, Thomas collapsed. He fell right there in his own field, surrounded by the failing crops he had given everything to save. He didn't collapse from laziness or a lack of trying. He collapsed from trying too hard. He had pushed his body and spirit to the absolute breaking point, and it finally gave way. Lying in bed afterward, recovering, he felt a profound sense of defeat. He was scared lost, and for the first time, he was forced to ask himself a question he had avoided his entire life. What if hard work is enough? This question was terrifying, because it challenged the very foundation of his identity. But it was also the beginning of his transformation. Once he was back on his feet, Thomas did something he'd never done before. He humbled himself. He walked over to his neighbor's farm. This neighbor always seemed more relaxed, worked fewer hours, yet his fields were thriving. His harvests were abundant. Thomas, swallowing his pride, simply asked for help, and that's when he discovered the truth that would change everything. The neighbor showed him techniques he'd never considered, things like crop rotation to enrich the soil, smarter irrigation methods to conserve water, and the importance of scheduled rest, not just for his body, but for the land itself. Thomas realized he hadn't been failing because he lacked effort. He had been failing because he lacked a strategy. He was using brute force when he needed to be using his mind. He was so focused on the how much that he never stopped to question the how. Once Thomas started implementing these new ideas, everything changed. He learned to work with the natural cycles of the land instead of fighting against them. He learned that resting wasn't a sign of weakness, but a crucial part of a sustainable plan. He started to focus his energy on the most impactful tasks, rather than just being busy all the time. And slowly but surely, his farm began to flourish. His crops grew stronger. His yields increased, and his debts started to shrink. But something even more important happened. His life started to grow, too. He was home for dinner. He reconnected with his wife. He found joy in his work again, not just exhaustion. The ache in his back was replaced by a sense of peace. Now, this isn't just a story about farming. It's a story for anyone out there who is tired of being tired. It's for the student pulling all-nighters only to get average grades. It's for the entrepreneur working 80-hour weeks and barely staying afloat. It's for anyone who feels like they're running on a hamster wheel, sprinting as fast as they can but going nowhere. The lesson here is profound. You do not need to break yourself to succeed. You do not need to suffer to prove your worth. The world often tells us that sacrifice is the only currency of achievement, but that's a dangerous lie. Sometimes, the bravest and most productive thing you can do is to stop swinging the axe with all your might. Sometimes, you have to have the courage to pause, step back, and finally sharpen the blade. It's not about giving up. It's about getting smarter. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more videos like this. Take care of yourselves, and remember to work smart, not who start.